Welcome to the esports podcast. This is your host, Mr. NumberNine.
And this is The Fool.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first ever and hopefully not last ever esports podcast, talking about an esport that me and the Fool have played since the inception of this game existing, which is Age of Empires 2.
Yeah.
It will not surprise you all to know, because me and the Fool are very, very old these days, that we predate the origin of Age of Empires 2 by more than a decade. Almost 2 decades.
Exactly.
And there was a time when me and the group of players, me and the Fool, played Age of Empires with. We're not sure about making the switch to Age of Empires 2 because we still really liked Age of Empires 1.
Yeah, exactly.
And for a while we did play Age of Mythology 2, which I still like as a game, which I also think would be a very good esport if it were, updated to just balance the units and played today.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Age of Empires 2, Age of Kings, the most popular game in the Age series by far.
By miles.
So, like I said, me and the Fool played back in the day, and there are players who played back, like we predate Doubt.
Yeah.
In terms of our tournament experience, and by tournament experience, I think we didn't play in these tournaments, but we watched and saw a lot of these tournaments. And this is back when StarCraft was really starting to hit the scene and becoming a really probably the first real professional esport. Like you could become a professional gamer and live on StarCraft. I'm sure there were other games, and there have been other professional gamers. I'm not going to use quotation marks, like people like back in the days of arcades and things like that, who did do it for a living, and then who have lots of records, the Guinness Book of World Records and Twin Galaxies. On a side note, if you ever want to watch stories about esports, great documentary, King of Kong, which is about two players trying to be the first to get 1 million points on Donkey Kong.
Oh, that does sound interesting.
And it's one of the best esports movies ever, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into it because, like I said, esports has a long and varied history since the arcade days all the way till now, online playing, maybe eventually even VR. Now, Age of Empires real-time strategy was the first game genre to really make it big and generate a lot of money for players and professional players. Initially, obviously, in Korea, and it won't surprise anyone to know the initial really good players of Age of Kings, Age of Empires were Koreans, and they were very good at real-time strategies. But a lot of those good players from Korea just swapped to playing StarCraft. Understandably, again, because that was the big game. Age of Empires, what it lacked in making money, I think it more than made up for with community passion. People still kept playing Age of Empires for a long, long time. And long after Microsoft probably gave up on the game and just didn't even think about making money for it.
No, yeah, it definitely survived all through those years. As you say, it was big in the early 2000s, well, very late 90s, early 2000s. Then, sure, Microsoft sort of just went, well, they moved on to Age of Empires 3 and other things, and like, oh, that's done, next cycle, next game. But say it kept going.
Yeah, the hardcore just stayed. I mean, Age of Empires 3 is by no means a bad game. I don't like it as much as Age of Kings, but I still think it's a pretty good game. Still pretty fun to play.
Yeah.
I think arguably their single player missions are more fun to play than Age of Kings. Age of Empires 1, it's just got retro nostalgia value. Like, it's fun for that. I mean, it's not fun if you didn't grow up playing it. I don't think anyone realistically will say Age of Empires 1 is better than Age of Empires 2 on any level.
No.
Other than nostalgia value. And then we had Age of Mythology, which is sometimes I think Age of Empires 3 is treated like the redheaded stepchild of the series, but because I think Age of Mythology still has a lot of hipster fans. Like, people who play Age of Kings still really like Age of Mythology. They just think it needs to be balanced. They need an active balancing community to fix the issues.
Yeah, well, Age 3 went in a slightly different direction, right? It went to the age of colonization and stuff, and so it sort of had your home base which you built, and you went missions to build it up
and get cards.
You got cards and stuff, But Age of Mythology sort of went back to the Age roots as such, which sort of
I agree.
To its normal stuff. So,
and I think Age of Mythology's introduction of myth units and hero units to add to the rock paper scissors of artillery, infantry, and archers. Like it adds another lizard Spock to that equation, and it's more difficult to balance, absolutely. But I think it's also a lot of fun. Like it makes it a fun game to play.
And adds to the strategy, right? Suddenly
Yes.
you've got all extra things to try to worry about, as opposed to, say, the Age 2 metas now is basically you go Scout Rush or you go Archer Rush.
Yeah.
Go in one direction or the other. And didn't really have an infantry. There's not really an infantry meta as such. Whilst with Age of Mythology, it feels like there's more of that. Like you can get a better balance that way, other than it's not a balanced game currently. But
yeah, and I think also there's a lot of things, because I think things like your spell powers and the fact that myth units had some special attacks and heroes sometimes had special attacks made it difficult to be like one type of unit is going to rule the roost. I think it was a lot harder to make like the death ball of range units in Age of Mythology, because you had attacks, a lot of spread attacks, or like you could freeze them or give your units like temporarily like basically immunity to range damage and things like that. But without getting into it, Age of Empires 2 like basically had a renaissance in the late 2010s, but when the fan community were basically given ownership of the game by Microsoft, and they started making expansions and expansion civilizations with new abilities, and started really tinkering with the balance of the game. I think before this, the game was part of the reason why the scene was stagnating is we didn't have people making balance changes, and like realistically nobody would like before the 2010s, before we got the new expansions and everything, people just didn't go to like Castle Age. You basically just went for wood and food, and you just built scouts, pikemen, and skirmishers. Because why waste villager resources on getting gold and stone when you don't really need it? And that was basically the way we played. I mean, you sometimes got stone for towers, and that was it. You either tower rushed and then late game converted it to like your trash unit wars, and it was all about the trash unit wars. It is no coincidence that the most favorite civ of that era were the Byzantines. Introducing new civs also shook up the meta. I think I like that. Inevitably the new civs are too powerful to begin with, but it slowly gets balanced out. But like I said, I think I like that. It makes the game more interesting, and it's also because there is strategy within strategies to winning in Age of Empires. So we'll talk a bit about the Hidden Cup format. So the Hidden Cup, this is the fourth year of its iteration. What we have basically got 16 players whose identities will be hidden during the play of the tournament. We had 8 invited players who are basically the top 8 players of the Age of Empires scene. I don't think anyone will look at those players and go, any of them didn't deserve to be the invited players.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like there are some really good players who had to qualify, but you look at them and go, well, but who would we kick out?
Yeah, exactly.
Because the guys who are invited are incredibly good. Which is not to say the people who had to qualify are not incredibly good, and incapable of winning. Absolutely not. Like they're all very good players.
Like your invites include ACCM, and Backed, and Jordan, and Vivi, and Nickholf, and Winchester, and Villies. Like these are all.
And like a man from back in the day we played, Jordan.
Jordan, yeah, exactly. Like these are all ridiculously good players.
Blast from the past, and even like newcomers or relative newcomers like Barles, who's really gone up and improved his play, and Villies, who's really improved his play in Winchester. So
they're all ridiculously good players. Those three, like they can beat the others. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, they could definitely beat the others. So they're all going to be their identities in game are going to be hidden, and they're going to basically masquerade as one of the many NPC players you get to play in the missions of Age of Empires, which I think is a great tradition for this
Yeah.
tournament. Like, it almost makes it worthwhile for Microsoft to just release more mission packs just so that we don't run out of heroes for Hidden Cup to use.
I mean, they probably will. I mean, they have
Yes.
been helping, well, playing up to T90 all the
Yes.
way through. Given that T90, I think everybody in the
Th-
scene is like, he's the guy
Absolutely.
that kept this alive.
Yes, I mean, if there is like a Mount Rushmore of Age of Empires as an esport and like as a community, as a fandom, like basically there, T90 is basically George Washington right up there. He's the first
Definitely.
name you think about.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
just the way he just keeps the fandom fresh. I think I'll just outright say it. I think Age of Empires have basically got the best fandom for any game,
Oh, easily.
esport, online, like full hands down.
Hands down,
They're the
easily.
most welcoming. Like everybody's like people. There's so few troll wars. People have legitimate discussions about. I think these are good in this scenario, and they go, yeah, but I always get into this situation, and they go, huh, you must have your eco geared a different way to mine, and like nobody thinks you're an idiot for doing it.
No.
It's like you do what feels right. Like we're not pro players.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And everybody is really welcoming of any skill level. Like, you can join
Yeah,
in discussions and be like, "Hey, so I'm a total noob," and they're like, "Cool. You want to learn? Okay, let's help you out. This is the stuff you need to know." And like, there is no looking down on you or anything. It's fully
yeah,
just, and not even helping you. Like, you have to be really good and be a top player. Like, no, just how are you going to have fun? Okay, this is how to help you have that fun.
yeah. Like here's a basic thing,
A build
build
order.
order, which will let you use archers if you think archers are fun.
Yeah. And these are like top players that are doing this.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of the top players, we would be remiss to not mention some of these other players and these who I think would also belong in that Mount Rushmore. Well, first, obviously, our Lord and Savior, Doubt,
Yeah.
who created the current Age of Empires universe and then sent T90 to propagate his message. Like, he's been around forever.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, looking at his page, showing his tournament winnings, he's had decent winnings since 2003, like $3,000 earnings 2003, 1,000 in 2004, all the way through these earnings every year, all the way up to this year. Surely some of those years are a bit slack, but that would be just showing how little tournaments there were. There'd be like 2 or 3 tournaments that he won.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and like I said, he's a legend. He's been around forever. And I think the other player we definitely put on this pedestal is the Viper, who's his great rival and teammate at in Secret now, I believe they're in. Or Gamer Legion. They've moved to, have they?
Gamer Legion, yeah. Yes, with Jordan.
With Jordan,
they
so
were
they're
secret,
part of.
Yeah.
They were in Secret together, but so the Viper is basically, if Doubt is like the classic player who's been around forever and still great, Viper is basically like the Tiger Woods of the sport. He's won so many hidden cups, so many great tournaments, so many S tier wins. He's probably by far won the most money of any Age of Empires player ever.
Easily. I think in all S tier top level competitions up to the Red Bull competition last year, he basically won all of them in the previous 5 years. Like, if there was a S tier competition Viper was in, he won it. And that was
absolutely.
I think he has like 45 tournament wins. And I don't even know if Doubt's that close.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous, his levels.
And if you ever watch him play, you can just tell how good he is.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those things where you can, like, I'm nowhere near as good as a pro player in Age of Empires, but just the clear sheer levels of skill he just shows.
Oh yeah.
And also he's the defending champion, so there was
He's-
obviously he was always gonna get his.
He's won every hidden cup, so
Yes.
far. All three. It's winner, Viper, 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 Viper.
Yep.
Just
And so he's no doubt going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite.
definitely the
to win.
favorite. I think.
And I think this tournament, though, we might say that he's co-favorites because he's actually found a great rival. So perhaps a Rafael Nadal to go along with his Roger Federer status. Would that be unfair to say for Mr. Yo?
Oh, definitely not.
I think
fair.
that's high praise.
Is,
like you're being compared as the Rafael Nadal of your sport. That's pretty high praise. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree. And having watched Mr. Yo play, it is well deserved. He is so good.
He is the Viper killer. Now, we don't know what part of the draw he's in. We don't know if he's going to play Viper. Not knowing that he's going to be playing Viper or not being sure that he's going to might affect his play.
Yeah.
But yes, he's still a very good player. I would not be surprised if those two are in the final. Look, there's no seeding, so they might face each other in the first round and knock each other out. That's just how Hidden Cup rolls, man.
Whenever that game comes up, it's going to be ridiculous because
it's basically there's 0 Fs given. Like you're at this point, there's no bad player anyway, so you can't really complain.
No, they'll be every game. They'll be all in. Say they don't know who they're playing, and they also know it's like the top players.
Yes.
There is
sure.
No
if
easy
you
game.
See somebody have like 3 layers of walls in the feudal age, and they're going for a big boom, that's Doubt. Like, but should talk about his style. Like, I would say Doubt is probably one of the most knowledgeable players of this game ever. Like, probably the only person who knows more about individual units and how well they can be used in strategies and in what situations is maybe Spirit of Law.
Yeah.
But Spirit of Law is not a pro player.
No.
Great dude, great channel. Shout out to him, and definitely recommend you follow him if you want to learn about Age of Empires as a game.
Yeah, definitely.
But Doubt is basically second only to him in knowing about how well the units match and how they play. It's no surprise that Doubt and Viper are players that Microsoft ask about balancing, or rather, the game studio that run Age of Empires ask about balancing.
Yeah, exactly.
The units. And one of the good things I think about Doubt and Viper for this community, like they're not just really good players, they really look after the community as well as the two big players of this community, because they don't think about, this is only a unbalance at our level at the top pros. Like, it's not a big deal. We don't need to worry about this. Whereas this is a really big issue at the lower level, I think.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. And they do think like that. And they watch a lot of low-level games on T90's challenge. So I think that's the other great thing about the Age of Empires scene and about these two guys. Like, that's why I put them on this Mount Rushmore of Age of Empires people.
And I'm pretty sure them and people like Hero and stuff will play with you as well and be like, in a 1 versus 7 sort of scenario, and then afterwards be like, this is all the stuff that you should have done. This is how I did this and all the rest, and like have proper debriefs and tell everybody like everything, and have great streams as well where that's what they're doing as well, like full on tutorials as they're playing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think Viper gets a bit more on the lols type strategies where he just tries to troll everybody in weird strats.
And I think that's good because he's also a streamer. He knows he has to make his content entertaining and get people to watch the games. And I think Doubt does that as well.
Yeah.
But I think Doubt's style is more achievable for a casual player. Like learning to boom, learning to block and get ready. Those are all things that I think like all good players should learn. Like you may never in the world have the levels of micro that Viper can do.
Yeah.
But you can learn all the things Doubt can do.
Oh, Doubt definitely, I think, is a good one to learn because, I say his macro skills are so top, but that's something you can learn. Micro skills are hard. That requires all the moves per minute mouse thing and just being all over the place. And Viper is next level on that.
Yeah,
that is not funny,
but when we say you can learn it, I'm not saying you can execute it like him because he's still Doubt. Like you're not Doubt. I'm not unless you're listening, Doubt. In which case, shout out to you.
Yeah.
But
In which case, yay.
yay, Doubt. But we're not saying you can execute it, but he uses a lot of knowledge and
Yeah.
like a lot of very sensible tactics. So you can watching him like I think watching Doubt helps you become a good player. Like helps
Yeah.
you improve as a player
And
in many ways.
and I think you can execute it, just perhaps not
Yeah.
at the level.
No, not his level. No,
Not his
agree.
level. Like, but you can understand what he's doing is understandable.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, I
Yes.
understood what you were trying to do with that. I see how that will work. And when you get in that situation, you can be like, oh yeah, I know how Doubt did that, and try and do it. And you'll fail, and then you'll fail, and you'll fail again. But as you get more used to it, and the muscle memory gets there, then you'll start doing it some of the time. And then you'll feel like, yay, I'm totally a pro player. And then you'll enter a tournament and get smashed.
Oh, absolutely. But that's the fun of Age of Empires, I think. Now, if it would be remiss if we were talking about these top favorite players, I think are in the conversation as we think apart from those three. Hera. Now, if we may extend that tennis player metaphor, if Viper and Mr. Yo are Nadal and Federer, then you've got Hera is probably Djokovic coming in. Getting into the, or maybe Mr. Yo's Djokovic and Hera's Nadal, but you know what we're saying. Like these are the three. Like we live, we're currently in the era, like almost a golden era of men's tennis with like three amazing players, and it's these three are the three amazing players of Age of Empires. Hera came second in the last last Hidden Cup. Incredible match he played against Viper. In that finals.
And Hera is currently the top ranked or top Elo player in Age of Empires. I think he had 2,700, 2,800, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Just recently, first person to get it.
Yes.
Which was big ups to him because he was really gunning for that, and it's really cool that he managed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think he beat Mr. Yo to get it. I'm pretty sure. Which is ridiculous.
Which also makes it amazing because you're beating like an amazing player. And doing so well.
Yeah, exactly.
He's had his victories against Viper too in S-level tournaments. So, if I'm gonna say Mr. Yo and Viper are joint top seeds favorites for me, I would put Hera very slightly behind. Like if I were a TAB, I might be giving like $1.50, maybe $2 on Mr. Yo and Viper. I'd be giving maybe $2.20 on Hera.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
I know what you mean there. Yes, definitely that would be the sort of things you're going for there, I think.
And on that 220 tier, I've probably also got Leary, just because he's always good in tournaments.
Yeah, he is. You're right. He picks it up in tournaments. So now we get in sort of that level where I'm like, yeah, but you've also got NBL. You got Tato.
Yes.
Dogal,
Absolutely.
Backs. I mean, you've all got people that this is the fun of Hidden Cup is that you start going, you got this. Oh, they're definitely favorites.
I'm also kind of looking in that Hera and Leary and Doubt have a habit of beating Viper in tournaments.
Yeah.
Whereas Tato, MBL, Dogal definitely all can do it. And Mr. Yo obviously has beaten Viper in tournaments. Cannot forget him. MBL, Dogal, Tato, no doubt can beat Viper on tournaments and everything. It's just not happened as often. Like it would be more of a shock if this wasn't a Hidden Cup, because anything can happen in Hidden Cup just because you don't know and you can't plan for the other person's strategy and style.
Yeah.
You if it was a World Cup game or something like that where Dogal beat Viper in a one-on-one over in a best of seven, we'd be shocked. No, we'd be surprised. We wouldn't be shocked because Degal's a good player. But we wouldn't be like, yeah, that happens. We'd be like, oh no, that's a surprise for us that happened.
It is an upset, right?
Yeah.
You're saying it's not necessarily a complete reversal of what you'd expect, but it's still an upset. You'd expect Viper or Mr. Yo to beat Dogal or Tato or something like that.
Yep.
And you say, traditionally in tournaments they do. So Hidden Cup has that slight edge of who knows when they're playing and also the fun that some of them will play slightly strats to try and throw them trying to guess if it's someone or not. Or try to play like someone else.
I fully expect like the likes of Viper, Hera, and Mr. Yo to do off strats.
And not necessarily off strats, like they'll play strats that they think other people are known for, so that it looks like it's them. So then people will go, "Oh, I'm playing this guy."
MBL will 100% do that.
Oh, okay, MBL does that every time. Like,
yes. And MBL is we haven't mentioned him as much, and you're right. MBL is in that tier of players like Leary and Hera at the 220 level, because he's also somebody who's regularly beaten Viper in tournaments as well. Like, I shouldn't say regularly, because it's not like Viper loses that often in tournaments.
He's won all tournaments, so yeah.
But like in S tier tournaments, if Viper loses, you expect to see the other person be someone like a Mr. Yo or an MBL. Or a Leary or Hera, if you heard that he lost.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the sort of level. But like the qualifiers also have really good players. Like the first right off the bat, ACCM and Backed. Yeah. Let's be honest. Like if those two were in the invited list and we wouldn't be surprised. Like obviously ELO is the reason they aren't picked, and that's fine. Like I think that's a valid way to divide up the qualifiers and the invitees. Yeah. And I think 8 is about the right number. Like I think T90's done the tournament correctly. Those two are no level lower than the others in the invited.
Exactly.
Amongst the invited players, maybe the biggest odds I'd give you on $1 is maybe $1.40, maybe $1.50, and it would, and ACCM and Backed would be on those same odds.
Yeah, you say they're that good that if they had been in the invite list and two of the others had been out, you'd say the same things that we said before, that top 8, you wouldn't take anyone out. And though it's unfortunate to be the wrong side of that line. As you say, it makes sense that 8 were invited and 8 qualified.
Yes.
But they're clearly, out of the qualifiers, I would say ACCM and Backed are clearly the two strongest ones out of that. The rest will do it on their day, but...
Yes.
Well, even Nikov sort of belongs in the ACCM Backed sort of conversation as well. Like
absolutely. Nikov as well I would definitely put him in there.
Even then, but if Nikov had been in the invited one and one of the others were out, that may raise a bit more questions.
Yeah, you'd be like, how come Degao had to be had to qualify, or how come Tato had to qualify?
But if it's ACM or Backed, there's no conversation there. You're like, oh no, that makes sense.
That kind of makes sense. It just happened to be the ELO at the time.
Yeah, that was things. Like the others, that's when the question would be like, really? He was high ELO at that time? Wow, that's a surprise. But
yeah.
But Nikov is almost there. And same with Vili's, almost there at that level. And it's not until you get to the others. Not that Biles or Winchester or Vivi or Jordan are bad players here, or are unlikely to get there, but I put them in that sort of next tier of players. If they get a good run, then they're going to do well. But at the same time, if they're coming up against some of the top ones there, and they've been unfortunate to be drafted against Mr. Yo or Viper or Doubt or something like that in the first round, then they're probably not going to make it through the first round.
Whereas ACCM and Backed, they could beat a Viper or a Doubt. It's not easily, but they're capable. But I think ACCM is slightly ahead of Backed. I think ACCM is clearly the best Vietnamese player, without a doubt. Because even Backed said that he wants to be the second best Vietnamese player because he's given up on catching up to ACCM.
Yeah, but ACCM is crazy. I think it's ACCM in the top 10 ranked list. I think ACCM is 3 of them of the top 10.
Yeah. And ACCM's thing is that he does like to do a lot of weird strats. And he's entertaining for that reason. He's going to take it seriously this time. There's decent amounts of money for everyone. Biggest Age of Empires tournament ever in terms of prize pool. Yeah.
And is he doing the same as the World Cup 2v2 where it's prize for the World Cup 2v2, he had 20 grand, I think it was 20 grand set by Microsoft, and then it was going to be, then Microsoft was going to put an extra $1 in for every sub or every view.
I believe there is something like that in the works.
Yeah.
I can't say for certain. Maybe Microsoft won't do exactly that because they possibly want the World Cup to be the tournament.
Yeah.
But Hidden Cup's always the more fun tournament. I think it gets more viewers generally.
I know that T90 is his aim is to beat last year's viewer numbers, and Hidden Cup 3 is his highest viewership.
Yes.
And he got, I think it was it 48 or 58?
I was there. There was
Okay.
close. I feel like there was close to 58,000 at one point. They didn't
It must be.
record it.
Yeah, no, he says in the preview, like, I think the official number that Twitch gave him is like 57,500 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was 58 there at one point. He's like really sad he didn't have a screenshot, but he really wants to get over 58,000 viewing.
Because I remember like telling everyone I knew who's even halfway interested in Age of Empires to be like, look, just go to this channel, just watch Hidden Cup. Like, it's amazing. Like, add to the numbers though, because it's gonna be like epic.
Epic. I think I may have been there. I can't remember. We were doing something on that day, unfortunately, but I think I had it streaming somewhere.
Yeah,
definitely watched it afterwards.
The other players in here, Jordan, like, is a what would call the sentimentalist favorite. The guys who've watched the game for a long time, and he was the top player for a long time.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna beat this bit, and kill this dead horse even further, the Jordan is probably like Andre Agassi, where he's an old great player and he's still making a comeback and trying to compete with the young guns. That'd be unfair. Basically, Jordan is a legend of the game in his own right. Let's not mince words here. He's has a great record, and for a long time was the player with the record with exactly. Most prize pool. He was basically 10 years ago. He was Viper.
Yes, exactly.
But like he had to take a bit of a hiatus from the game, like not do it as seriously. And look, Age of Empires is a higher. There's nowhere near the levels of like support with YouTube and Twitch that you have now back in Jordan's day.
Exactly.
I think if he could have done Age of Empires, like Doubt basically had to work and still did it.
Yeah.
And Doubt is exceptional, like nobody else compares to him in Age of Empires for this reason.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's another player who plays in Gamer Legion along with Doubt and Tato. With the Viper. Viper moved to Germany to hang out with Jordan, so they're besties. And yeah, he's another great player. I would be shocked if Jordan won. I think Jordan and Vivi are the two players I would genuinely be shocked if they won. But I will not be surprised because it'll be obvious that it was Vivi by the time we got to that stage if Vivi won.
Definitely.
I think Vivi is the fan favorite. Would that be right? Like, if everybody would be having a good time if Vivi was winning, like got to the finals and had a long run. The Fat Dragon.
The Fat Dragon, yeah. If he wins, yeah, it is going to be party center.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there'll be crazy stuff going on.
And it would be funny because he might face someone like Mr. Yo in the finals, and when they're doing the post-match interviews, Mr. Yo will have to translate for him.
Yeah.
And Vivi's famously a man of like few words.
Yeah.
In either Chinese or because there's a lot of the Chinese and Vietnamese players who are men of few words when they're talking to people who don't speak their native language, which is fair enough. But like all the other, according to T90, all the other players are from the Chinese community. You're like, no, Miss Vivi doesn't talk to like us either. Like he's Vivi.
Exactly.
The Fat Dragon had like an epic road to get here because he wasn't on form and he was going down below in the ELO. But he did qualify, and I think like the tournament's better for having him qualify. And same with Barles and Winchester. Like Winchester, haven't watched a lot of his games, I have to admit. But I know he's been doing well in a lot of the qualifying games. And he did play a lot of A-tier tournaments where he's done well. And he's got a very impressive ELO. Same with Winchester. They're like, these are the new players coming up in the scene who are out to take the crown of the old guys. These are the young guns. And so like there was a time when Viper was one of these guys. He couldn't beat Jordan, he couldn't beat Doubt. And then he basically just took over the game.
Yeah.
And so I would once again, I'd be shocked if one of these two players ended up winning. I'd be amazing if they did, because it would be like especially like Barles, who doesn't even have like a clan. he's a part of. And Winchester's the only representative of his clan, Sal's, which is which was so it would almost be unheard of, I would think. Wouldn't you say? If
Definitely.
a new player like them, when you mean like we wouldn't be surprised if ACCM won or backed one, and even
No.
Jordan. While it
Yeah.
would be shocking, we'd be like, "Ah, yeah, but Jordan's a good player. He's
Yeah.
a legend, right? Like
Yeah. It just means
he's just brought back some of that old greatness to his game."
exactly.
And even Vivi were like, "We know he can be hard to like. It would be fun. Like we could see how he'd win. It would be like this series of unlikely events, but he'd
Yeah.
do it like the way he could. But it's possible. Like
Oh
Barles,
yeah.
Winchester are players where it's difficult. But I think if they can win one or two with the Hidden Cup, they can win one or two games. And once you're on a roll, it's a knockout tournament. You
Exactly.
catch your opponent on a bad day, and I genuinely believe this. Even the Viper and Mr. Yo, who I rate at the top, if they like if their performance goes down by even 5%, and one of these other players in the qualified ranks, like your Vivies, your Jordans, Winchester, Barl, they up their game by even 2 or 3%, they can be competitive with those
Oh yeah,
guys.
definitely. Like it is one of those things that there is not that much there,
Yep.
they say. And with hitting cup, there isn't preparation, they say. So it is fully possible, especially in the first round, that something that Winchester or Barles or Vivi or someone could be facing Viper and throw him off his game because
Yes.
that they do something different and it just throws him. And maybe they get their 4 wins on the trot and just have completely thrown him and he just doesn't have time to react and doesn't have time to get back into the game. It is possible, and it may happen. The thing, though, is of course because it's a 7-game set, and it's I think they're Arabia first, and then they pick their home maps, and it
Yeah.
goes to losers home map.
Arabia is the classic,
Yeah.
and 1-on-1. Like I said, Arabia is the classic. It has been since time immemorial.
Yeah.
And
It was a classic when we started. Still a
basically, Big Bang happened, and then somebody just asked somebody else if they wanted to play on Arabia, and that's basically Age of Empires.
Exactly.
That unfair to say?
Not unfair to say. That's exactly what happened. But yeah, but that process does mean that it is hard to push through on that role as a lesser player, for lack of a better word,
Yep.
because after you may win Arabia with something that knocks someone out off their strat, but then they're going to fall back onto one of their maps that they've chosen and they're prepared for, at the very least of, I know the strat I need for this, and fall back into a comfortable space, and you're going to have to pull out something great there.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's possible that if you do that if you win that second game, that things may get a bit crazy, and they could push through and win through the set, but just that going to the losers home map obviously just makes it harder to really roll each other.
Yeah. And the because the guys have only known about these maps like a week ago, I want to say, and they will have had maybe 10 days to practice on the new maps. Now, the other reason that we've got the other randomization when it comes to Hidden Cup is we have maps that these guys will have never played tournaments on before.
Exactly.
And they didn't get revealed. And some of these maps have been played by them before, and some have not. Let's look at a quick review of the maps. So before we had the qualifying round end, the map they had about 7 maps on offer. All classic Age of Empires map. Arabia, obviously, which is always the home map, and it's always decided to see who gets to pick the next map. Then we got Slopes, which is a defensive map, similar in many ways to is it fair to say it's a bit like an arena type map, which you can defend easily, but it's a bit more open.
Yeah, it is an open arena. You say because you've got the hills, you're always defending with elevation, so that's always going to give advantages to the defender because they're going to be able to set their defensive lines uphill, and you're always having to push up to them, which just, if it's anything resembling equal units or even unequal units at this level, the player's micro is going to ensure that the defenders win. Whoever's got the hill advantage is going to win in any of these engagements. So having to push uphill is just going to be tough.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the Arabia, we all know the standard. I'm not going to explain Arabia. I'm sure, at this point, you need to have a bit of Age of Empires knowledge. Bay is a map which has a lot of open space, but also has water with a lot of resources. And there's a lot of strategic decisions in this map, because do you go for the water fishing to give you a food boom and go for a quick castle? This map is also defensible because of the water, but also open because of the water. It's weird in that way. And it can go into the late game. So I expect a lot of players, like similar, like your doubts and stuff, would like that as a home map.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of defensibility, and like booming nicely, it does help. And like I think booming, especially with fish, is a very good strategy, economically. Second, we've got cross, very similar to Bay. In fact, you've got like a hidden water resource, and being able to fish on those waters early and maybe protect yourself will basically be all the difference in those two maps. These are your defensive. Those two are, I would say, are basically your defensive maps with water.
Yeah, and with the cross, I think the important thing was the two neutral waters. On the side, and it's controlling those. So you'll always have your water, you get those fish, and then it's about getting
which of those other two you can get. And obviously, if your opponent can get 3 waters, you're generally like on a hiding to nothing at that point.
The food they're going to get is ridiculous. But if you can get the 3 waters, then obviously your food production is going to be sky high. So
absolutely. And also sometimes they may have the economic advantage, but you may have the tempo in the military. This is what makes Age of Empires fun, and it's open enough that can be the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
The next one is the classic map, Gold Rush. Maybe the second map people decided to try after the Big Bang was Gold Rush. Would that be fair to say? So it's always in every tournament. It's a map like it has so much strategic fun. Like it's one of the most fun maps to play if you're playing a team game. And it's obviously very open. But even more strategically demanding than Arabia, I believe.
Yeah, well, all the resources being in the middle.
It's
a very good tournament to win because there is no hiding. You have to push forward, and whoever controls the center wins the game. It is.
So I think
straightforward.
Players like your Vivies, your MBLs, they like Gold Rush. I think they will try to use that as their home map. I could see even Viper using it.
Yes.
The next map, I think, is one of the best maps in the game to watch players play on anyway. From a spectator perspective, I hope a lot of players pick Hideout as their home map, because I think it's basically it's like an arena with feudal age attacks instead of castle age attacks.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah. You can't hide back there as long. Because you could be protected in Dark Age, but you say once you get into Feudal, it's going to start becoming less and less defensible, and you're going to have to start aggressiveness early. Unlike, you say, Arena, where it's got stone walls, so you can hide in there potentially all the way through to Imperial before you really have to push out.
And there's a lot of wood, which is like going to make a difference in this map. And there are resources out and about for you to get. So it encourages raiding. It encourages... I think one of the more fun maps to watch. The other map which I like is obviously Islands. I enjoy the water play, and there's a lot of players in this tournament who are probably specialists on water. Very, very good. That's the map you pick when you're behind. If you're 2 games behind and you need to get the third, you gotta pick Islands. You gotta try and mess it up and try to use that as your comeback map.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly. Yes, I do agree. You're right, especially if you're a water player.
Yes.
That is your go-to map for when you're in trouble, because if you're a water player, you're going to you're going to feel comfortable there. You know what to do. You're going to be fine. Um, if you're not a water player, you're probably going to be looking at Gold Rush or Slopes as
Yeah.
similar sort of thing, where you're like, this is depending on how aggressive you are as a non-water player, you'd go for one of
Yeah.
those too. Um, but yeah, it's I would imagine Islands will get plenty of play.
Oh yes. I think Islands is one of those strategic maps you just need to have up your sleeve.
Yeah,
Um, Now, on top of these maps, for the tournament, they have introduced a bunch of new maps for people to play, just so that it keeps things from getting stale. I think a really, really good idea. It just means that good players will use these maps. They've been practicing. I fully expect players like Mr. Yo and Viper to pick these maps as their home maps, because I feel they're going to be confident. Not that I think they'll lose. Viper never got to pick a home map, I believe, in his Hidden Cup last year because he didn't lose a single game.
no,
And I don't think Hera got to do it till the end when he lost to Viper.
yeah,
Um, so definitely these are the maps to look at, and I think if you're one of those players who had to qualify to get here, practicing hard on these maps and using them to surprise, this is the great equalizer. This is a map to use, I think, if you lose that first Arabia, just to try and recover some points.
yeah,
Because you still have like a good home map up your sleeve after. Like you can use an islands, you can use a hideout if that's your specialty or something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think first of all, if we look at these maps, there is Cup, which is the first one. It's an interesting map with a lot of marshlands, which are basically terrain where you can have both water units and land units move on,
Yeah,
and you can build on it. There's bits of water with fish, lots of fish. Excuse me, on this map.
yeah,
And I believe players start off very close to fish, so they don't get berries, but they get fish instead.
and they're very close to each other as well. Like
Yes.
they're just across the skinny bit of the water of the
Yeah.
gap.
And those two bits of water are not connected, so it becomes a strategic decision where you want to go, which side you want to go for, whether you want to leave that bridge open or block it up.
Yeah.
I think this is a surprisingly open map, Cup.
Yes.
And I think if you're a good water player, this is another one to have up your sleeve if you manage to, level things up with with an islands map, and then you try and go for something like this.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I hope a lot of players pick this map because once again, I like to see a good mixture of water and land units, and I think this is the map that you will see that.
As I remember last year in Cup 3, there was plenty of Cup played.
Yeah.
And had some good strats where, Vikings or Japanese something, where you can have a good mix of a good hybrid between water and land. So I think I saw a couple of games where Vikings was chosen on Cup and they dominated.
I imagine Vikings would be a very good civ on maybe Malay as well.
Yeah.
Because you get to build harbors. Obviously, that's more of a late game, but I think that's potentially a map you can get into late games.
Yeah, I think the other one that was a lot was Japanese. Because I think they have higher hit points on their fishing ships, so they could get more fishing out whilst being pressured because they could just fish and fish and fish, and the fishing boats will last longer, so they got more fish that way. And then just land units to protect them.
Yeah, definitely could be definitely very good map, I think, for a lot of that. And I think Cup is a popular enough map in the meta anyway that a lot of players are good at it already. Like there's not going to need to be that much practice on Cup. As opposed to I think our next map, which is I believe it is called High Tides.
Yes.
So you basically start off in a landmass which has like water in the front with some mangroves, which lead out to like water resources. And there's like similar situation down on the south of the map with a lot of your gold resources, and I think maybe stone too. And it's got like your swamps there.
Yes.
And water is definitely going to be a crucial element on this map, but it's not the element. The land is where you win on this map, I think. But I think having a good combo strategy with your water and land is key, especially in the early game.
Yes, yes, I see what you mean. But definitely, as you say, it's going to be a land wins, but that water, you're going to have to control water as well. If you're
Oh
not
yeah,
controlling water, then you're basically going to run out of resources before the other person. So if you're
yeah, and
controlling
you
water,
can go for the second water instead of the northern water if you
yeah,
lose out on. That's one of the things. Hopefully, the way the random generation works is like sometimes it'll be the open ocean will be on the south and the swampy bits will be on the north,
yeah,
etc.,
yeah,
etc. Because obviously we want to see a bit like that kind of variety in the game. And the map also has like it's got a lot of hilly terrain, so
mm,
there's bits here and there to block around in, but it's still pretty open. The middle bit is like it's gonna be hard to like house wall and things like this, I believe.
yeah, yeah. No, it definitely looks like it's going to be hard to wall off. It's going to be one of those you're just going to have to play open and just go for it, and
Yes.
try and get as much of the resources you can, get your army up as quickly as you can, and just push.
Yeah. And the next map I've got on here is called Quarry. Now, basically, this map has a big hole in the middle where you can use your terrain advantage to stop people from getting at you. And there is but I believe there's not much building space down there, so it's basically there for you to have fights in. And it basically looks like a Pokeball
Yeah,
from
yeah.
far up. It's got the line. They've got a
Looks
thin wood line on the side, which you can chop through to get to the other side. But I imagine this is a map. It's got doubt written all over it, doesn't it? Like
yeah,
doubt, Degal. This is the maps those guys love,
yeah, yeah. I think you're right.
and
Like,
like they're gonna. I think there's a lot of interesting strategies you could use. This map is basically begging for you to use a sneaky villager strat, I think.
yes, I
Uh,
I agree. You can get
and
the villagers
there's
around the back.
yeah, and like I could almost see it happen that you have both players do sneaky villagers on this map,
Yeah,
and it's gonna be lots of fun. I would hope that they use this map a lot. For people. But like I said, I think your specialist boomers like your Doubts, your Degaus, even MBLs will probably like that map. The next map we've got coming up is called Mud Flows, which looks like a duck. Not gonna lie, with two sides. So basically, this is a map where village both players start off on mangrove with their town center. There's like
yeah, yeah.
fish. I don't think they have any berries. Once again on this map, but
Oh,
there's lots
maybe.
of food. I believe they've got elephants. I think they get two fish at the beginning. So
Yeah,
food booming into Castle Age is a very good strategy. There's a huge mangrove swamp in the middle, which I think is going to have heaps of food, and you can do wall ups. There's going to be demo ships galore. This is the map which I can see water supremacy is winning it for you. This is the
yeah,
map where you want to have your navy running well properly. Once again, I think a really good map for a player like Doubt. Your boomers who are not necessarily going to look for an early rush.
yeah, yeah.
And I think a map that's going to be lots of fun to play. Uh, Hopefully we get to see it early. I've not seen many games on this map, but it looks tasty. So it should be fun.
Yeah.
And
I'm with you. I hope that we get a few games that say it looks interesting, and it looks like it could be um, fairly varied on its results, so that people could do different
yeah,
things on it.
yeah. I think you could use a lot of different strats on that. I
Yeah,
think a feudal age, even a dark age attack would work on that map. That's a
yeah.
map with, I think, dark age rushing would actually be quite successful. So maybe a GOTS spam
Oh yeah,
we
maybe,
could see coming. Maybe.
maybe.
Now, the final map on the game is called Slopes. It's another arena style map. There's a bit in the center where you can have fights. There's, I think, just enough room. It's put there that you can't build anything on there. So
Yeah,
that middle bit, and it's surrounded by trees, and then you're going around to the other side to try and get the other players. This is a very, very interesting map because I think defending the middle is going to be key, and I think it's going to be very easy to defend the middle. After which you obviously have the whole deciding how you want to do your aggression outside. This map, I think it's got the tower sibs written all over it. You're like back in the day, this would be a map Koreans would basically pwn everyone. I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you mean.
Incans, I think, would be very good on this map. And Sims that have good. This is a map that reads good range to me, like Mayans, Britons. Uh,
Yeah,
Personally, I think because it's not quite fully arena, it's not going to be a castle age end game. And while I love arena as a map, I'm glad it's not on here because I think a lot of the arena strats are quite stale, especially at the top level.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I think players at you and I's level, our strats are still like fresh in arena. We come up with new stuff and it works sometimes because
Yeah, yeah,
stuff still works. Whereas like at that top level arena, a lot of and it's I think very hard to get the map balance right in arena. Like you'll have one guy have like one stone pile outside, and that's going to ruin their chances of winning. Like
yeah, yeah,
and that we don't want stuff like that. We want the maps to be balanced. I think.
yeah.
Um,
That is the thing at this level. Like all it requires is, say one of the gold piles to be ever so slightly further out, or wood line to be slightly wrong, or stone to be slightly
yes.
out. That they just like, yeah, no, we're ruined now. Well, say at our level that doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of get you're either going to screw yourself or you be fine one way or the other. But this level, that's why they need maps that will come out fairly balanced between the two, but at the same time encourage aggression, but also give defensive benefits and all the rest. I think you're right. The maps that they've got all provide that. You can either
Yeah. Apparently, the other name for slopes is bypass. But yeah. But yes, so that's the maps are good. I like it. I think there's a good mixture of water and land maps.
Yeah.
I think other than like your and I think a lot of the land maps, other than Arabia and Gold Rush, which are open, the others, the other land-only maps are a bit more defensive.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of strategy in that way as well. And like the water maps are, because islands can be a very aggressive map. You can do Dark Age rushing, sneaking a villager in and rushing people on islands. That's a viable strat in a 2v2 map where there's less room to travel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think
I
it's
mean,
quite.
it would be a ballsy move. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I hope somebody tries it. But it's you could do it.
Yeah,
Is what I'm saying.
I'm liking actually talking about that, though it's more of a feudal. I think it was feudal, maybe castle. There's good memes going on in the T90 chats because he had a video a while back where he was casting one of his games. He was playing islands against someone, and he thought he'd scouted the person's island, and then had to be his his galley had to be chased off, and so but he landed some villagers and started his sneaky backward strat, and he built 3 ranges, and it turned out to be a neutral island, not the opponent's isle. But you look at the map, like the map that he can see, and you're like, yeah, that looks like it would be it's in the right position to be the opponent's island.
Yeah, and that can happen in islands. Scouting is key. Scouting is life. Like I don't mind that in an islands game because you're not guaranteed to only have 2 big islands. There can be you can have deceptively sized islands.
Yeah.
In the islands game,
And
and and there is usually a stretch of open water between the two islands where the ships have to fight.
You say you have to have water control there, but but
Yeah,
you
I
can
think
do that sneaky around because it's quite open and scouting is key. But it takes a while to get your scout, get your water scout going.
yeah.
So you can get sneaks in quite easily. Unlike
Yes,
Arabia, where
absolutely.
people are reasonably very good at getting their scouting done, making scouts do the right things, getting the walls up, doing all the stuff. Like on islands, there's no walling because where do you wall?
Yeah, pretty much.
You wall once you
Uh,
know the opposition's come across and has landed. Then you start walling around where they landed.
Pretty much. It's an interesting map to me. Like it's always been one of my favorite maps to play in Age of Empires. Maybe Age 1 to probably even Age of Myth. I've really liked playing on the islands map because I enjoy the water battles, and I think there was a time, and I think before they did a lot of the balance patches which were needed to make the water game more interesting. You had like these massive armada of battles, like you had like 20-30 ships with like a mixture of fire ships, demo ships, galleys, and like a few cannon galleons here and there,
Yeah.
along with any unique tech ships. And like we've played games where we've had like literal, if we had like 4v4 games where there was like close to like each person having 100 ships each underwater.
Yeah, definitely. That has
With
happened.
naval battles.
Yeah, massive.
Like
massive
I don't
battles.
expect this to happen. If a game has gotten to the point where players have got 100 ships, something's gone wrong
Yeah.
in this tournament.
Yeah, and I think that sort of meta doesn't happen anymore. Like they have just enough ships to try and allow themselves to get their landings. Basically,
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah.
All the ships are there for is to facilitate getting villagers and troops across to actually land. And yeah, so there will be decent fights because the easiest way to do that is to deny the other person water. If you've got full control of water, then you can transport your forces across easily. But
Yep.
as the 2v2 World Cup showed, having control of water doesn't mean that you win the map, the Team Islands map in that case.
No.
Like, you can get units across, you can get things going and cause lots of problems just by having a couple of villagers running around on your opponent's island.
I think it's one of the classic maneuvers. Like Doubt is very good at games where he ends up losing water, but because he's such a good boomer that he then beats you on land in his land.
Yeah.
And then gets you off, and in the meantime he's snuck in and done something on your island.
Yeah.
And because he's such a good boomer, like he's just set up an attack that's unstoppable on your island. And you've got navy and he's got 2 armies.
Yeah. And you can't do it. And your navy's pointless because it doesn't matter anymore.
It doesn't matter anymore. That happens very often. And I think that's a classic strat. That's the games where so what strategies do you want to see? What's your favorites? Like what are you hoping to see?
I know I'm always the bit of an archer boy, really, fanboy, so I always like the archer rushes.
Okay.
And
I don't think you need to want to see that, because I will be shocked if nobody uses archers in the Hidden Cup tournament.
Oh no, it's definitely going to happen. I'll just point out that
archers are like the core strat of every player. But like in terms of
it's either that or scouts, right? But yeah, what I mean is that's where I come from, is the long distance range.
You want to see somebody build a death ball?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair
enough.
Whether that's a Mayan death ball, a Britain's death ball, cavalry archer death ball running around, or whatever. That's always fun. I always find that it's just you got your little thing and just.
I want to see 2 things, but they can be combined into one thing. I want to see a villager rush.
Yeah.
Because that would be cool. It's a crowd pleaser, right?
Yeah.
a villager rush is just a crowd pleaser, and like nobody's unhappy to see one in a tournament game. In any RTS, by the way, not just Age of Empires. Everybody loves to see SCV rushes in StarCraft, etc., etc. The peon rushes from back in the day in Warcraft.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, I want to see some sort of villager rush. I think that would be very cool.
it's
And I don't mind if said villager rush is combined into a tower rush.
yeah.
Because I hope there's not too many tower rushes. It would be cool to see a clever tower rush, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I think something like that. Like you don't see those sort of things very much in the top level play anymore.
Hmm.
So I sort of feel that either that may happen early on in the set as
Yeah.
a bit of a lulz, bit of a troll, but also to try and throw the opposition out.
Yes.
Because you do something weird and everybody goes, "Oh my god, what the hell is happening?" But it also can come out late in a set where someone's like, "I just need to do something, anything to turn this around," and so you have may even get a Persian douche or something like that, something weird happening, especially if it's vivid.
I would have also said something like, I hope there's Dark Age attacks, but there will be. There's enough open maps that there will be people using Dark Age attacks. So I'm not going to hope for that because that's coming.
And you've got MDL and you've got Viper and things like that.
I think it would be cool to see somebody use a unique unit that's not often used. Like, I don't know what. Like, if somebody did something cool with maybe Mamelukes or Janissary. Heck, picking Turks at all, that would be crazy.
I don't know if we'll see that a lot, but the other one,
or even Teutonic Knights. Somebody did like a Teutonic Knight spam and won the game. That would be crazy for me.
That would be crazy. Whilst it's not actually that underpowered or that crazy, with the current meta, it'd actually be a Mayan Plumed Archer rush, or Plumed Archers being used, because these days they're not used because people get Obsidian Arrow and it doesn't work on Plumed Archers, so you just spam out Arbalests.
Your Arbalests, correct.
And with Obsidian Arrow, they just melt everything.
Yes.
But just Plumed Archers are still super good.
Still a very good unit, I think.
So it'd be interesting to see if anybody pulls them out as a slight change to that meta for some reason.
Yes. I mean, I expect somebody's going to use Elephant, so that's why I didn't hope for it, because obviously somebody will at some point use elephants. We're not in the old days where there's only one elephant civ in the whole game. There is a decent amount of elephant civilizations. Do you think that the Persians and the Indians should be allowed to have the ability of those Southeast Asian civs of making the elephants in the stables, like the generic elephants, not the unique unit elephants, because that would be OP.
Yeah. That's an interesting balance. So
because I would rather they did that for Persians than give them their current crossbow. Thing, because Persians are already good, and the crossbow thing makes them incredibly good.
Yes. So I think it sort of makes more sense. It's just a question around whether it balances right, but it sort of feels like if you're taking away some of those things, then it sort of feels like it could be balanced out a bit better. Say Persians are pretty strong. Indians are very strong as well in the right hands.
Indians are already very strong. Like, I wouldn't mind if you gave, instead of their hand cannoneer ability, which their Sultan's ability, which I think is a bit pants, like just generate more gold income. They should get, maybe if they got the ability to recruit their elephant archer from the archery range, like a horse archer.
Yeah.
Because that's an underutilized unique unit, I think, which I think is a bit underrated.
Yeah, that's fair. If it's underused, then sticking it, being able to build it out of the stable, sort of makes a bit of sense. But then
it doesn't necessarily will do it, because Huns can make Tarkans out of stables now, and nobody does it. So it's one of those things.
Tarkans are a very specific use unit. Is probably more the issue.
I think. I think Huns are not that good right now, so I don't mind if they made Tarkans have a bit of a boost. Maybe give them a bit more pierce armor, like make them into Huskarls.
Yeah, maybe.
they don't have the bonus attack against archers, and they don't have the bonus. They just have bonus attack versus buildings, but they have like insane, incredible amounts of armor. Okay, like both
Yeah,
maybe pierce and hack armor, so they're a bit better at resisting pikemen as well.
yeah. It would make some sense.
But yeah, there's a lot of balances we could do, but on the whole, I'm not unhappy with it. Do you think we're gonna see a lot of our new civs, the Sicilians and the
Ooh.
Burgundians? Oh, are we gonna see somebody utilize the Burgundian unique tech as a finisher?
Quite possibly if they need it. Yes, I think we'll probably see both those ones being used, and it'll be interesting to see them being used in a tournament play. So I think it'll be the first time they get used.
Yes.
At least
Yes.
at a top tier tournament at the very least. Which will make it a bit more interesting because people won't be as used to them in terms of tournament play. I'm sure all the top players have played with them and started to understand how to use them, but at the same time, that's a bit different than facing them in tournament play and suddenly seeing how their
Yeah.
abilities merge and mesh and make things change. And yeah, you say having the Burgundians finisher basically, but it is
Yes.
interesting that with these new civilizations, they're basically all one-time power-ups as their unique techs, but it'll be interesting how it all works out as opposed to the more standard ongoing buff type tech, unique tech.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting balance. There are I think there's way too many civs in Age of Empires 2 to do this, but do you think something like that as a god power type ability would be good in Age of Kings? Or maybe Age of Empires 4 when they release it, because it is going to be set in the same era as Age of Empires 2.
Yeah. It may be an interesting way of going. I mean, personally, I just prefer that they just gave Age of Mythology the DE treatment and did it that way. But hey, some of us like that one. So
I love Age of Mythology. Don't
yeah.
get me wrong,
Oh
but
no,
I
don't
think
get me
Age of Empires 4 could implement good things from Age of Mythology and
Yeah.
obviously onto Age of Empires 2.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I just wondered what you thought of that as a thing, because I don't think Age of Empires 4 is gonna have the 5-way rock paper scissors lizard Spock that Age of Mythology has.
No. So I mean, it could be an interesting way of spicing things up, especially as you get late game or as a game turner to try and time it right to cast some sort of god power or special ability that changes things up for a short period of time, or as a
Yep.
one-off sort of boost that changes things. So it definitely would provide a change to the strategy and change to the meta.
Yeah,
Where it's
I mean,
not,
obviously you couldn't call it god powers because
no.
that would be a bit weird. But the one-off abilities
Yeah.
like that.
Some sort of power up type thing, whatever they
Oh,
call it. But
one thing I forgot to mention that I really hope somebody does, which I would be shocked if this happens, because look, villager rush is possible. Unique unit, using a unique unit in a creative way is definitely going to be possible, and we'll definitely see something like that, I think. But how cool would it be if somebody actually did a monk rush?
that would be pretty cool. Though I have seen Viper in one of his trollish videos do exactly that. But
Yeah, but in a tournament,
in a
obviously he
tournament,
does that in online games.
obviously. But yeah, it would just be crazy to see someone pull out a monk rush. It will just be crazy as everything. And it does seem to me to be too crazy to pull off. Maybe someone might do it if they're really just starting to do it for the lols because they're like, oh, nothing's working. I can't get anything. It's the last game. Something. And
Yeah,
maybe they try that way. Things aren't going well, but they can pump out, a ton of monks and think, well, let's try it this way. And it is extremely funny seeing a monk rush because it's
yes.
just the best in the world. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we'll get it, but if we do, it will go off. It will be the best thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, I could see how you could do something cool like that. Age of um like with an age with the monks, especially with the Spanish, there's a few good monk sibs that can do, and we have small maps. Island maps, I think, are where monks can be quite good,
Yeah,
quite effective. Gold Rush could be another map we might see it in.
yeah,
But
yeah,
once again, it'll be a crowd pleaser if it happens. Like a
yeah,
villager rush or a monk rush are going to be crowd pleasers.
yeah. Exactly. I mean, if it's a monk rush, that's the crowd will go wild. I mean, it goes bad enough when there's just one or two conversions with a couple of monks. If you got a full-on monk rush going in and converting everything they can see, then
Who
things are
is the most likely player to do a monk rush other than Viper?
other than
If we
Viper.
see one,
Um, oh,
MBL,
no, I don't know. Maybe MBL. I think it'd be more likely
Leary,
Leary could do it. I was thinking one
Mr.
of the
Yo, maybe even.
maybe if he was really thing, but I feel like with the especially those top players in the tournament, they whilst they love those sort of trollish YOLO type strats in a friendly type environment, when it's tournament, serious face comes on and they don't go that way. But I sort of feel maybe Indikov, Philly, Spals, Winchester, Vivi,
Vivi.
Vivi, like they might do it for the lols because they're like, especially if they're just crashing and burning otherwise, and just like, well, why the hell not? Let's just do something fun and exciting for the memes. So
Yeah. If you're in New Zealand, these games are at a pretty difficult time. You're going to have to set your alarm clock up. It's going to start on March the 19th, which is Friday at 3 in the morning. I have that day off. I may or may not have specifically taken time off for the Hidden Cup. And we'll be watching. I will definitely 100% be watching these games. There is and the finals are going to be on Monday. The at 9 o'clock New Zealand time, much more accessible.
yeah.
I think may or may not be working while watching that game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think through most, I'll probably watch the finals, watch work, whatever we're calling it. The others will be a catch up either on Twitch or YouTube, as
Yeah.
as able, I think, and just try and keep on top of it. But semis and finals, do my best to try and watch those.
Yeah, I think the 3 o'clock ones, it's gonna be a bit of a hit and miss,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm gonna try at least for the 7 and 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock ones to watch the games live.
yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Now, the final thing we have to talk about before we finish our podcast is there's going to be a tournament of heroes. Obviously, each player is going to get to use the hero unit, and fight 1-on-1, and then until they finally win in the finals. All right, so who's going to face Cobra Car in the finals? Or lose to Cobra Car in the finals? Because we all know Cobra Car is going to win.
I liked it was interesting seeing the draft team when they were picking the things because Cobra Kai probably has one weakness, and T90 was really wondering whether he was going to face up against like the one unit that could probably beat it, which is Pope Leo the First, so the monk, because that could get a conversion going, and that would be it. So they had Cobra Kai, and it got converted, so that's how it lost. But the likelihood of they're now on opposite sides of the bracket, so the likelihood of Pope Leo going all the way through the final to meet Cobra Kai
If
is
Pope
very low.
Leo makes the finals, that'll be the most epic thing ever.
Yeah. Because otherwise it's I guess Cobra Kai is just winning everything because it's Cobra Kai.
It's Cobra Kai. Let's not put too fine a point in it. It would be some poetic justice if Cobra Kai turned out to be the Viper. Ha ha.
Oh.
But I doubt it.
Yeah. I don't think so either, but you never know. I mean, it is completely random who got what. what cover, and then the bracket selections was all random anyway. So who knows who is who and who faces who? It's the fun of hitting
Yeah.
cup, right? Is the watch the games and then try and guess which one's Viper, which one's Doubt, and which one's NBL.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only names that really come out. Well, Vivi would probably come out a bit if there's some really.
I could see the person who got Cobra Car intentionally losing the first game, just to make it something of the tournament. Just because it's like gonna win otherwise, almost no doubt.
Yeah. That could be interesting, yeah, if the person's got it. Just
These are the stats of the Cobra Car. Its type is a siege unit. It has 500 hit points, 10 melee attack, 10 versus building, plus 10 versus buildings, blast radius of 1, rate of fire, which is the fastest in the game,
yeah.
range of 10, an accuracy of 100%, and a projectile speed of 5.5. So it fires faster than any other unit in the game. Melee armor of 10, pierce armor of 10, basically Huskarl and Teutonic Knight combined.
Yeah.
And it has the armor class of a siege weapon, so it's got plus 50 defense versus units generally, unless they have a bonus versus siege weapons. So unless you've got Mangudai or the like, it's and yeah. So if they're playing post-imperial, I don't know which. There's a bunch of good sibs you can take. If you're playing post-imperial, Celts will give you plus 40% hit points. Cannot argue with that. Ethiopians give you extra blast damage. I don't think you care about the extra range at this point. You've got more range than any other unit in the game, pretty much, other than trebuchets. Ironclad will give you extra armor, which sure. I mean, yeah. Maybe the 50% movement speed with drill. But maybe you take Teutons because you don't want to get converted in case you do meet the Pope in the finals.
Yeah, it may be a worthwhile. You're going to beat everything anyway, so it may be a worthwhile defensive measure just in case. Yeah, because that's perhaps really its only weakness is being converted. Like you say, it's got the best armor, best attack, fastest attack. Basically, nothing outranges it, so nothing's going to get close enough to it to hit it. The only chance really would be the Pope to convert it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the era of Age of Empires 2 that you had a cheat code like a car to play in the game.
It was always funny.
So yeah, and it's always had funny units like this in the game for at all times, and it's a long history of having cars in these games because Age of Empires 1 you could play Big Daddy or Big Mama to get the car as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's all we have time for. Thank you very much, and look forward to talking to you later. More Hidden Cup as the tournament progresses.
Yeah, catch you next time.